Have you ever wondered what really happens when we take our last breath? Why do different cultures throughout history share such different and, at the same time, so similar views on life after death? On the one hand, we have the Western beliefs of heaven and hell, which promise eternal destinies based on our earthly choices. On the other, the mystical vision of the Bard Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which describes death as a detailed process filled with dazzling lights, profound visions, and choices that define our spiritual journey. But what makes these views so unique? And what do they really tell us about who we are and where we're going? In this video, we will explore the mysteries of the Bard Thodol, delving into the teachings of Padmasambhava, the stages of the afterlife, and the lessons that this ancient guide offers us about life. Get ready for a journey that will challenge your beliefs, awaken reflections, and, who knows, completely change the way you face the greatest mystery of all: death. Ready to cross the portal? The last breath is more than the end of a physical journey. It is the threshold of a mystery that crosses the ages. When the air leaves our lungs for the last time and the heart slows its pace until it stops, something happens. But what? Since the dawn of humanity, philosophers, mystics, and scientists have sought answers to this question. Is death an endpoint, a fall into the void? Or would it be a transition, a step towards something much bigger? Accounts from people who have experienced near-death experiences offer disturbing clues. Some describe feelings of peace and an encounter with a bright, almost indescribable light. Others mention revisiting old memories, as if all life flashed before their eyes. These experiences, while widely reported, remain shrouded in mystery. Science tries to explain them as chemical and electrical responses of the dying brain. But what if they are something more? This possibility is explored in depth by the Bard Thodol, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. This ancient text of Tibetan origin presents a detailed map of what happens after death. More than a simple spiritual manual, it is a practical guide, a compass for the soul during the crossing into the unknown. According to the Bard Thodol, death is not an isolated event, but a transition that unfolds in stages. Each stage brings challenges and opportunities, and the ultimate destination depends on the ability to recognize the ultimate truth hidden amidst the chaos. At the very moment of death, called Bardo Chikai, the soul is faced with the clear light, a pure manifestation of the essence of the universe. For the prepared, recognizing this light leads to liberation. To the unprepared, the light can seem frightening, a mirror that reveals fears and attachments. In this case, the journey continues through other intermediate states known as bardos, where the mind faces its own projections. The question remains, what is there beyond the last breath? While modern science seeks answers in machines and laboratories, Bard Thodol offers a look that transcends matter. He invites us to consider death not as an end, but as an opportunity for self-knowledge and liberation. This perspective not only changes our view of dying, but also illuminates the way we live. If every moment of life prepares us for our last breath, perhaps we should live with more awareness, more courage, and more compassion. After all, if the last breath is the beginning of a new journey, it carries with it a promise that existence, in all its complexity, never really ends. In the mystical valleys of the Himalayas, where mountains touch the sky and silence echoes hidden truths, a man was born destined to change the way we view life and death. Padmasambhava, known as Guru Rinpoche, was not only a spiritual master, but a living bridge between visible and invisible worlds. He did not leave only teachings, he left a legacy that spans the centuries. The story of Padmasambhava begins in India, in a context surrounded by legends and mysteries. From a young age, he demonstrated unusual abilities, both in wisdom and spirituality. These qualities made him an essential figure in the process of bringing Buddhism to Tibet, a land then marked by shamanic beliefs and ancestral spiritual practices. However, Padmasambhava's arrival was not met without resistance. Local deities and spirits opposed Buddhism, and the master had to employ his tantric skills to tame these forces and integrate them into the new philosophy. It was in this atmosphere of transformation that he conceived the Bard Thodol, a revolutionary text that not only addresses death, but also the path to liberation. Padmasambhava knew that death was not the end, but a moment of opportunity. He believed that when the body perishes, the mind becomes extremely receptive to ultimate truth. However, he also knew that this truth could be frightening to those who were unprepared. The Bard Thodol, then, emerged as a guide to help the dead and the living navigate these murky waters. More than a manual, Bard Thodol is an invitation to self-knowledge. Padmasambhava understood that in order to master the transitional states after death, it was necessary to understand the mind and life. Therefore, he dedicated his life to teaching practices that would help people free themselves from their illusions and fears. These practices, which include deep meditation and contemplation on impermanence, are the foundation for recognizing clear light, the culmination of the spiritual journey. Padmasambhava's legacy is not limited to Tibet. His ideas and teachings traveled the world, inspiring millions to look at death with less fear and more curiosity. It didn't promise easy answers, but it did offer a path, the path of self-discovery, where each soul can face its own shadow and find its light. When the last breath of life leaves the body, a revelation takes place. In the Bard Thodol, this moment is described as the encounter with the clear light, a pure manifestation of the essence of the universe and the human mind. This event, however, is neither simple nor universally understood. For those who are prepared, it is an invitation to liberation. For others, it is an experience that defies their own understanding. Clear light is not something that is seen with the eyes. It is the essence of consciousness, free from judgments, fears, or desires. In life, this light is obscured by the distractions of everyday life and the limitations of the physical body. But in death, it manifests itself with an intensity that is impossible to ignore. Its purity can be comforting, but it can also be overwhelming. Why do some accept it and others reject it? According to Bard Thodol, fear plays a central role. Those who carry material attachments or are not ready to let go of their earthly identities often see the light as a threat. For these souls, the light exposes all their illusions, and this revelation can be terrifying. Thus, instead of merging with it, they retreat, missing the opportunity to attain nirvana. But what exactly is clear light? For Padmasambhava, it is the ultimate essence of the mind, the natural state of all beings before they are enveloped in the cycle of rebirth. Recognizing it is like finding a mirror that reflects your true nature. This moment, although fleeting, is the chance to break with the cycle of samsara and achieve ultimate liberation. However, the recognition of the clear light does not happen by chance. It takes preparation, and that preparation begins in life. Through practices such as meditation, it is possible to train the mind to recognize its own nature, even in the face of the chaos of death. Thus, the clear light, which may seem distant and unattainable, becomes accessible, a window into the truth that has always been present. Imagine yourself in a huge theater, where the curtains open to reveal a series of disconcerting scenes. However, something is out of the ordinary. Every character, setting, and event on this stage belongs entirely to you. They are not external influences, but projections of your mind, manifested vividly and intensely. This is the essence of the bardo of visions, described in the Bard Thodol as an intermediate state in which the mind confronts its own nature. After the encounter with the clear light, the soul enters a state where physical limitations disappear and consciousness becomes a vast field of possibilities. At that moment, everything that has been repressed, desired, or feared throughout life emerges with full force. The Tibetan text describes these visions as the materialization of karmic and emotional tendencies that have shaped the existence of each individual. But there is an important detail. These manifestations are not real. They are, in fact, intensified reflections of our mind, like a mirror that forces us to face our innermost essence. Visions in the bardo of projections appear in two main forms, peaceful and wrathful. Peaceful figures, often depicted as benevolent deities or enlightened Buddhas, represent positive qualities cultivated by the soul throughout its journey. On the other hand, choleric figures take on terrifying forms, revealing repressed fears and desires. To the unprepared mind, these visions can be overwhelming, confusing the soul, and preventing it from seeing beyond appearances. However, Bard Thodol offers a crucial teaching. All such manifestations, no matter how frightening or comforting they may seem, are illusory. They are transient expressions of the mind and have no reality of their own. The real challenge of the soul at this stage is to recognize the illusory nature of these visions and not to cling to them, either through fear or attraction. Those who can grasp this truth find the opportunity to transcend their limitations. However, for most souls, psychic theater turns into a trap. Unable to cope with the intensity of the visions, they are eventually pushed into the next stage of the bards, where the choices become increasingly limited. This intermediate state is not just a test, it's a lesson. He teaches us that the mind is both the source of our suffering and the key to our liberation. The Bard Thodol invites us to reflect on how we live our lives and what we carry inside us. After all, in the theater of projections, there is no way to escape oneself. The instant the breath ceases and the heart stops, something extraordinary happens. The Bardo Chikai, the first stage after death, is described in the Bardo Thodol as the moment when the body and soul begin to separate. It is a transition fraught with mystery, where the familiar dissolves and consciousness is confronted with the unknown. During the Bardo Chikai, the physical body collapses. The five senses gradually disappear. Vision darkens, sounds become distant, and even the sensation of one's own body begins to dissipate. This process, although it seems scary, is also liberating. For the first time, the mind is free from the bonds of the material world. It is at this moment that the clear light manifests for the first time. This light, described as dazzling and infinite, is the pure essence of the mind, the natural state of all beings. Recognizing it is the key to definitive liberation. However, for most souls, this encounter is not simple. The intensity of the light can be overwhelming, especially for those who carry fears and attachments. Instead of merging with her, they reject her, plunging into illusions and losing the chance to reach nirvana. The Bardo Thodol emphasizes that the recognition of the clear light depends on preparation. During life, spiritual practices, such as meditation and contemplation on death, help the mind become familiar with its own nature. Thus, at the time of the Bardo Chikai, the individual is more apt to accept the light as part of himself. But Bard Chikai isn't just about the clear light. It is also a mirror that reflects the internal state of the soul. Unresolved fears, repressed desires, and regrets can emerge in full force, creating an energy field that will shape later experiences. For those who are unprepared, this phase can be disorienting, a maze of intense emotions and confusing visions. However, the Bard Chikai is not a punitive phase. It is an opportunity. It is the moment when the soul, freed from the distractions of the physical world, can glimpse the ultimate truth. This instant, although fleeting, carries with it the potential for liberation. As we reflect on the Bard Chikai, we are reminded that death is not just a physical event. It is a time of spiritual transition that reveals the essence of who we are. And perhaps by understanding what happens at this stage, we can live our lives with more awareness and purpose, preparing for what is to come. When the body is gone and the clear light is no longer visible, the mind enters a new stage. This is the Bardo Chonyad, one of the most intense moments described in the Bardo Thodol. Here, the soul is faced with deeply symbolic visions that reveal the most hidden aspects of its psyche. There is no longer the protection of the physical body or the distractions of everyday life. It is like standing in a cosmic mirror, where every facet of the mind is projected with brutal clarity. In this state, the soul faces manifestations that can be both angelic and terrifying. These visions are not external, but rather direct projections of the mind itself. They include peaceful deities who emit serenity and wisdom, but also wrathful figures who evoke fear and confusion. Peaceful deities represent enlightened qualities that have been cultivated by the soul, such as compassion, kindness, and wisdom. The choleric deities, on the other hand, symbolize fears, desires, and repressed emotions that the soul still carries with it. The Bard Thodol teaches that these figures, however real they may seem, are illusory. They are a reflection of the inner state of the soul, amplified by the absence of physical limitations. Recognizing this is the key to overcoming the Bard Chonyad. However, for many, fear and attachment make this task almost impossible. For example, a soul that encounters a wrathful deity may see it as an external threat rather than a representation of their own fears. This misconception causes the soul to flee or resist, further entangling itself in the cycle of rebirth. Carl Gustav Jung, a famous Swiss psychologist, explored similar concepts when describing the collective unconscious. He compared these archetypal figures to projections of the unconscious, stating that facing them is essential for self-knowledge. As with the teachings of the Bard Thodol, Jung believed that confronting these images is a path to the integration of the psyche. The challenge of the Bard Chonyid is not to succumb to fear or cling to visions. It must be recognized that both peaceful and wrathful deities are temporary expressions of the mind, empty of self-reality. This understanding allows the soul to find peace, even in the midst of chaos. However, for most, the Bard Chonyid is a phase of infighting. The clarity needed to transcend projections requires a preparation that begins in life. This is why the Bard Thodol emphasizes the practice of meditation and detachment. The mind that is accustomed to observing its own thoughts and emotions in life will find it easier to recognize visions as illusions. Thus, the Bard Chonyid is not just a test, but a powerful lesson. He shows us that the greatest enemy, and also the greatest ally, is within ourselves. After facing the clear light and the visions of the Chonyid Bardo, the soul enters a stage of greater psychic density, the Sidpa Bardo, the state in which rebirth becomes inevitable. This is the moment when the soul's fate is sealed, shaped by the accumulated energies of its actions, thoughts, and intentions from past lives, what Buddhism calls karma. In the Sidpa Bardo, the mind begins to move instinctively, guided by karmic impulses that act as magnetic forces. These energies, accumulated over previous lifetimes, determine not only the next soul body, but also the circumstances of its new life. It is as if every choice, action, or thought from past lives leaves a mark, and those marks form the script for the next chapter. During this stage, the soul experiences visions associated with the rebirth process. The Bard Thodol describes these visions in a symbolic way as images of couples in union, representing the creation of new life. The soul is drawn to these visions according to its karmic inclinations, and the desire to be reborn intensifies. This attraction is not conscious but instinctive. It reflects the fears and desires still unresolved, like a magnet that guides the soul to a new body. For those who carry a mind troubled by attachments, the Sidpa Bardo is a turbulent phase. The desire to exist again, to experience the material world, becomes irresistible. However, Bard Thodol offers an alternative. He teaches that with preparation and detachment, the soul can avoid being swept away by these impulses. By recognizing the views of the Sidpa Bardo as illusory, it is possible to transcend the cycle of rebirth and achieve liberation. This stage reminds us of the importance of the choices we make in life. Every thought, word, and action leaves an imprint on our consciousness, shaping not only our present, but also our future. Thus, the Sidpa Bardo is not only a phase of rebirth, but also a reflection of how we live. He invites us to contemplate our intentions and to act with greater wisdom and compassion. For those who are not ready to abandon the cycle of rebirth, the Sidpa Bardo is the gateway to a new beginning. However, this beginning is not without challenges. The circumstances of the new birth will be determined by the karmic energies accumulated, and these circumstances can offer opportunities for growth, but also perpetuate patterns of suffering. Thus, the Sidpa Bardo is not just an end. It's a powerful reminder that every moment counts. He teaches us that by taking care of our actions and thoughts in life, we can shape a more harmonious destiny, both for this existence and for the next. Imagine a Ferris wheel spinning incessantly, with no pause, no end in sight. This is the image that Buddhism uses to describe samsara, the cycle of births, deaths, and rebirths that imprisons consciousness. But why are we stuck with this wheel? What makes us repeatedly return to the physical world, carrying burdens from past lives? At the heart of samsara are two powerful impulses: attachment and desire. According to the teachings of the Bard Thodol, these elements act as invisible chains that keep the soul bound to the material world. The desire to continue existing, the fear of the unknown, and attachments to earthly experiences create a magnetic force that draws us back to life. However, samsara is not just a matter of physical rebirth. It is also a mental state, a prison built by the illusions we feed during our existence. With each life, we accumulate karma, a concept that can be understood as the sum of our actions, thoughts, and intentions. This karma, like seeds planted in fertile soil, germinates and shapes our future experiences. Thus, each rebirth in the cycle of samsara reflects the karmic patterns that we have created, whether they are positive or negative. However, the process is more complex than a simple reward or punishment. Karma is a manifestation of our choices, showing us what we still need to learn or transcend. Why then is it so difficult to escape this cycle? The Bard Thodol teaches that the answer is in the mind. Throughout our lives, we create habits and conditioning that shape our perceptions. These mental patterns lead us to repeat behaviors and reactions, perpetuating the cycle. Even after death, the mind charged by these conditionings enters the bardos, experiencing visions and emotions that reflect its karmic tendencies. Unable to break away from these patterns, the soul is drawn into a new body, a new beginning, but with the same limitations and challenges. The cycle of samsara is also fueled by fear. At the moment of death, the soul faces the unknown, an emptiness that can be both liberating and terrifying. Instead of accepting this emptiness as part of the nature of existence, most cling to the familiar, seeking security in a new rebirth. It is this fear, combined with the accumulated attachments, that prevents the soul from attaining liberation. However, samsara is not eternal damnation. It is first and foremost an opportunity. Each life offers the chance to understand our illusions, let go of what is transient, and cultivate the wisdom that will lead us to liberation. Bard Thodol suggests that the key to escaping samsara lies in self-knowledge and spiritual practice. By contemplating the nature of the mind, we can begin to dissolve the patterns that bind us, paving the way for enlightenment. In the end, the cycle of samsara is more than a journey between lives. It is a metaphor for the internal struggle of each individual. He invites us to reflect on the choices we make and the seeds we plant. Are we ready to break this incessant wheel, or will we continue to be stuck with its infinite spins? Breaking free from the cycle of samsara is not a simple task. It is a journey that requires courage, discipline, and a deep understanding of the mind. The Bard Thodol teaches us that the key to escaping the wheel of births and rebirths lies in what we do while still alive. It is not during death that the soul learns to free itself. It is in the moments when we are alive that we build the foundation for this liberation. But how to prepare for something as uncertain as death? The first step is to understand that death is not the end, but a transition. This perspective changes everything. Instead of fearing the final moment, we can use it as an opportunity for self-knowledge. The Bard Thodol describes death as a portal, a state of openness in which the mind, freed from the limitations of the body, becomes receptive to ultimate truth. However, recognizing this truth requires training, and that training begins long before the last breath. One of the fundamental practices taught by Padmasambhava, the creator of the Bard Thodol, is meditation. During meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting attached to them. This exercise of detachment is crucial for the moment of death, when the mind will be confronted with its own projections. Those who master this practice in life will find it easier to recognize the illusory nature of visions in the intermediate state, or bardo, and to focus on the clear light. Another important aspect of preparation is the cultivation of a quiet and compassionate mind. In Tibetan Buddhism, compassion is seen as a transformative force that helps us transcend the limits of the ego. By practicing kindness and selflessness, we begin to dissolve the attachments that bind us to samsara. This does not mean rejecting the material world, but rather living with awareness, valuing what is essential and detaching from what is transitory. The Bard Thodol also emphasizes the importance of reflecting on death while we are still alive. This practice, known as impermanence contemplation, helps us accept the transitory nature of life. By recognizing that everything is constantly changing, we learn to let go of fears and desires that cloud our vision. This acceptance is not resignation, but a way of freeing ourselves from the illusions that keep us stuck in the cycle of rebirth. Preparation for death is actually a preparation for life. By becoming more aware of our thoughts, actions, and intentions, we begin to shape a more harmonious future, both in this lifetime and in the next. And more importantly, we develop the ability to face death with serenity, recognizing it not as an enemy, but as an ally on the journey to enlightenment. In the end, the path to liberation is an invitation to self-knowledge. He challenges us to look within, face our shadows, and discover the light that has always been present. After all, as the Bard Thodol teaches us, true freedom is not in escaping death, but in understanding what it means to really live. Few texts have the power to transform the way we view existence like the Bard Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. He is not only a guide for the moments that follow the last breath, it is an invitation to revisit one's own life, question our choices, and above all, prepare ourselves for the inevitable. But what makes this book so special? How did it transcend time and space to become a spiritual compass for so many people? The Bard Thodol is not a text about death, but about life. He teaches us that the key to facing the unknown lies in the way we live each day. While many are concerned with avoiding death, the book invites us to look at it head-on, to face it as part of the journey. After all, it is by understanding death that we learn to live more authentically, detached from illusions and more connected to what really matters. Padmasambhava, in composing this millennial guide, did not seek only to alleviate suffering at the moment of death. He wished that every person could attain liberation, not just in the end, but in every moment of existence. For him, death was a mirror of life. Our actions, thoughts, and intentions shape not only our earthly future, but also what we will encounter in the great unknown. One of the most revolutionary aspects of the Bard Thodol is the emphasis on living practice. Meditation, the cultivation of compassion, and contemplation on impermanence are powerful tools for transforming our mind. But the text goes further, proposing a profound question. Are we living as we should? Are we ready to let go of our fears and attachments when the time comes? By studying the Bard Thodol, we realize that life and death are not opposites. They are part of a continuous cycle where every moment is an opportunity for spiritual growth. With every choice we make, we plant seeds that will influence not only our present experience, but also the next. This leads us to an inescapable truth. Liberation does not depend on external forces, but on ourselves. Ram Dass, one of the great promoters of spirituality in the West, said that the only question that really matters at the end of our life is how much did you love? This reflection echoes the words of the Bard Thodol, who teaches us that liberation lies in detachment and the ability to live with wisdom and compassion. You don't have to wait for death to start this journey. Each day offers us the chance to look within, to recognize our illusions, and to seek the clear light that dwells in all of us. In the end, the Bard Thodol is not just a book about what happens after death. It is a tool for self-knowledge, a reminder that life is transitory and precious. As we prepare to die, he teaches us to live fully, with courage, awareness, and love. Perhaps this is the greatest secret of existence, accepting impermanence not as a loss, but as a gift, an opportunity to discover who we really are. Now that you've explored the mysteries revealed by the Bard Thodol, ask yourself, are you living with purpose and preparing your mind for the unknown? What would you do if you knew that every moment counts not only for this life, but for your eternity? If these reflections have touched you, share this content with someone who is also seeking answers to the mysteries of life and death. Leave your comment below and tell us, which of these post-mortem stages aroused your curiosity the most? Let's continue unraveling the secrets of existence together. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and follow our next videos. Because knowledge doesn't end here. There's always more to discover beyond what meets the eye. Until the next journey, traveling soul,